Hello and welcome to another amazing episode of Meet the Author. And today we thought we would bring you a unique approach to everything. Not only are we part of the Wildly Free team, but we were all three authors in the Rising Relentlessly book. And we would love to chat about what it felt like just being authors first. And so, with that, I'd love to kick off and introduce James Bryant and Ashley Elizabeth Packard to this podcast. And James Bryant was not only editor, publisher, a whole bunch of other things, he was also an author. And this is actually his very first book. And he became a best-selling author because that's how we do it at Wildly Free. And with Ashley Elizabeth Packard, she's going to talk about how this was a second chance for her because she was a best-selling author of Rooted to Rise. And so we just have so many wonderful things we would love to share with you, not only to share our stories, but to create an invitation that you will tell your story as well. So James, would you like to start off and just tell us what does it feel like to be a best-selling, all the things, but especially author?
It really feels surreal, Rochelle. I've written for years for other people. This is the first time I really sat down and wrote for myself. So to share my story and have people interested in actually reading it was an amazing experience, an amazing feeling of it's like I find value in my own story. You find value in my story, but will people that are strangers or people that are from high school and college find value in the story that I have to tell as well? And the fact that they did was just outstanding and astounding to me.
I love that. Did you have like a specific story you wanted to share about one person in particular that maybe you connected with during this process that you invited to read your book and they did?
Yes, a friend from high school actually, who I was going through Facebook Messenger, just messaging some of my core group of friends from high school. And for me, high school was quite a few decades ago. We'll leave it at that. And so I hadn't really spoken with this person in years, though we had been Facebook friends for a while. I'd been following his art journey because he's an artist, and he'd been following my writing journey from what I had been sharing. And so when I reached out to him, he purchased the ebook, which astounded me. He then reached out and talked about his own journey with cannabis a little bit, and just seeing how this has touched different people in different ways, especially knowing where he's located and that it's not necessarily uh, as welcoming as it is here in Colorado. It
Mhm.
was just neat to hear his story and his side of it and his perspective.
I love that. Well, moving on over to Ashley Elizabeth, how does it feel to be a two-time best-selling author and three-time best-selling editor and marketer and all the things? How are you feeling right now?
I feel like I'm actually having a chance to step into some real feelings around it this time around. When we did this with Rooted to Rise, I think I was in a very similar place as James. Like it was very surreal, but almost to the point where I feel like I was a little bit disassociated from the feelings of it all. Like it was like, that's really cool that it's happening over there. And like that, surely that can't be part of my identity. Like I'm just riding the wave with all the rest of these other really amazing people and other really amazing writers, which is not shocking to you too, that I had a feeling like that, just knowing who I am. But I feel like this time around, I think some of the core differences for me, one was how I approached writing my chapter. So when I wrote in Rooted to Rise, you had issued the invitation, and I knew immediately I needed to talk about my anxiety journey. And that was a really vulnerable space for me to be in. When I said yes to Rising Relentlessly, it was after I'd said no. It was after I had said, no, I'm good. I'm not going to write in this book. I'll do marketing. I'll be an editor. That'll be great. But I don't need to write in it. And then I had an experience, which hopefully you've gotten the book and you can read about my experience. But it fired me up. this girl got like lit on fire. And so the whole approach to this second book for me was different. It was still, it's vulnerable to write every time you wonder how it's going to land. James, I was thinking as you were just talking about like yours, like wondering how it landed. You don't even know this because I haven't even had a chance to tell you, but I actually have a friend in the UK who, when he got the book, it got delivered to him on Wednesday. He goes, "Oh my gosh, James's chapter is titled, whatever." And you just use the acronym, but he was like, "It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles." And it was like this thing, it was immediate, right? That like this stranger literally across the pond, right, is all he saw was the title of your chapter, and it was like boom, he was in. And it had nothing to do with me. I was the connection. And so anyway, just knowing that like when you're stepping into these things as an author, it's always going to be vulnerable because you don't know whose hands it's going to land in, and you don't know where it's going to go, and you don't know what, their reactions to it are going to be. So there was that component of it. But I really felt like this time it was more about, I don't know, I like me standing on this thing that I knew needed to be talked about, and in a different way. The layers I was peeling back in myself were more layers that had to do with things I didn't realize I still needed to uncover. Whereas that first round of things, it was stuff I had already worked through. And so the whole difference in all of that, I think, was significant for me. It was also different for me this time around because with Rooted to Rise, I sort of happened into the Wildly Free team. I was like, it was something that I didn't know that I was going to be a part of at the level that I am now. And with Rising Relentlessly, I got to be in it from the beginning. I got to be in the marketing from the beginning. I was in the editing from the beginning. And when we hit number one, I mean, my husband could tell you, like I was screaming, I was like crying. It was such an intense reaction. Rooted to Rise didn't have that for me because I don't think I realized quite what it meant. Rising Relentlessly, I was watching what it was doing to all these other authors, and for the first time I felt like I got to be in that. I feel like Rising Relentlessly doing this was a second chance for me. So that's where I landed on that.
I love that so much. I love that you gave yourself permission to have a second chance.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
I want to add to that too, having edited and published
Mm-hmm.
Rooted to Rise and Rising Relentlessly, reading both of your chapters in Rising and reflecting back to what you wrote in Rooted, I can see how both of you have grown as
Mm-hmm.
writers, as people that are sharing their story. But also, I think what was really fascinating about it, from my perspective as the editor, was how your chapters were both so much more intentional about what you wrote about. Both of you really thought it wasn't just telling your story, it was sharing a different perspective
Mm-hmm.
of your story. And that
Mm-hmm.
was just absolutely interesting.
I love that.
I also think, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Rochelle, but I also think, and James, I'm curious if this, impacted you too, but I also think that having your book, Rochelle, having expiration date unknown in between those two, and knowing that I was totally on the outside of it as an author, right? Clearly, you were the only author in that book, and then I got to sit in both the marketing and editing spaces for that one and watched direction that that one was able to go. I feel like this is my third time experiencing what it looks like to go to number one. And I think people don't realize how much time and effort and energy and just like the magnitude of what it takes to do that. I don't think people understand. I also don't know that they all always understand, like, it is not necessarily that in and of itself that we set out to do. I love that it's part of kind of our identity at Wildly Free. Like this is where we go, but it all comes down to impact. And because we want these words to reach as many people as humanly possible, because the work that goes into putting these words together that I can now speak to as an author and an editor, right? It's unparalleled what these people are putting into these books and into these chapters. And so I think on that end of it too, it's helping me establish my author identity as I'm walking the path of helping others establish theirs. So I think
That's
that's
powerful.
a part of it too.
I love that. Thank you.
Rochelle, will you tell us about yours?
The fact that personal transformation is a category that we hit every time consistently in Amazon is where I am sharing from because I started wildly free. I started sharing books, I stories, all the things because of personal transformation. And we have, a separate space called transformational truth. And it started there. It started before Wildly Free started. It started before I wrote any of these books, curated any of them. And I think that it's kind of an invitation I gave to myself as well as others to step into their transformational truth. So the alignment in of itself is so amazing for me because I wanted to create a safe space for people to show up authentically, not worry about judgment, whether it was themselves judging themselves, because there's a lot of self-judgment that can
Hmm.
happen. How are their family and friends going to receive them or their words or their stories or their vulnerability? I just want to live and create spaces that are truth-telling. And so being in that personal transformation space, that's like the one that I'm always shooting for. Like Ashley Elizabeth said, it takes so much to become number one and to hold that space. And we held that space for a couple of days with Rising Relentlessly. And then we were in the top three for a couple of days. And we held strong in the top 10 for the last couple of weeks. Sometimes staying in that top five, that top 10, means more to me than hitting the number one. And, there's so much healing that happens when you write your truth and you write your stories that creates sometimes a level of disassociation. And I know that you talked about that. A lot of times I'm just so focused on everyone else. Even with my own book, I was focusing on, Wildly Free. I was focusing on the two of you. I was focusing on Amy Hicks, who designed the cover. It's so hard for me to like receive something that I'm not really looking for, if that makes sense. I'm looking to love and support others. And I'm still in that space of trying to love and accept myself through all of it. So, Rising Relentlessly had there were about two people that I knew in it. And then getting to know everybody else was such a gift.
Mhm.
It was such an amazing thing to now call a handful of new people friends and just watching their journeys and being in it with them. And now, towards kind of the end of the completion of this part of the journey, it's just been such a sacred space. So it's I wouldn't even say second, third, fourth, or 10th chance on my end. I think right now I'm just really trying to figure out what does it mean to individualize myself. And whenever I say something like, "Oh, I was an author in this book," everyone's like, "But you also published it. You were also curator. You were also da da da," like all these
Hmm.
things." And I'm like, I'm just in it.
Hmm.
Titles don't really matter to me. I just want to be in community.
Hmm.
So that's my take on it all right now. So with that, I think it's so important for all of us to kind of dive in to, being in that wildly free space. I know all three of us have captured a little bit of that, but what else would you like to share? We'll start off with James about, in terms of Rising Relentlessly, how did it feel to go a third time? With our third book, we're three for three, in terms of just publishing it and on top of hitting number one. But what does it feel like to be a part of Wildly Free in general?
When I made the announcement 2 years ago now to a complete stranger that, hey, I want to publish your book, I didn't know what I was doing. I had absolutely no clue. I knew how to edit. I knew how to leave comments. I knew how to work with people to help their writing, but I never set out to publish. And the what I've most enjoyed about this experience of all three books, from Rooted to Expiration Date to now Rising Relentlessly, is each time I can see the progress and how we're getting better at what we do. And we're always staying true to our mission. We're always staying true to our vision, which is amplifying authentic voices, helping people to tell their story, helping people to understand that they have a story worth telling in the first place. And
Hmm.
whether that comes out as a book, a podcast, a blog, a family journal, however it comes out, that through this experience now we've worked with almost 20 authors total, and we have more coming in even as we speak. I'm seeing how what we do as Wildly Free amplifies and helps people to have the confidence to know that their story has something powerful in it that people need to hear, they need to read, they need to see, they need to experience. And each time we're like, okay, how can we help Ashley Elizabeth's voice be more prominent? How can we help Rachelle Bryant's voice come out more? How can we help to really get people's voices out there in new and different ways? So each and every single time, each and every single book, we're getting better at what we do, and we're establishing really what we're known for, so that people, when they come to us, they go, we heard from this person that we have to work with you.
Mhm.
And that is so incredibly important for us, because yes, we market books, right? We market the books that we're publishing, but we don't often go out and market Wildly Free in and of itself as a business. Instead, we're relying on those tales and those stories and those, oh my gosh, my experience was like this, you need to go write with them. That's
Mhm.
what we're is so important to us, is that word of mouth.
Yeah. What about
Definitely.
you, Ashley Elizabeth?
Well, I think that there's so many things that make Wildly Free different. And I don't think I realized how many there were. I continue to realize that
Mhm.
there are more because I hear people tell stories. And like you experience, um, I don't understand why this was missing or whatever. But I think the thing that, and James, like hearing you talk about, us getting better and better at what we do, the thing that hasn't changed is that we serve like to the nth degree straight from our hearts, start to finish. And so we're learning more absolutely all the time. The three of us collectively, and the other two members of our team also, like Amy Hicks and Nina, all of it, we're constant learners. We're constantly like absorbing new information, trying to figure things out. I mean, the landscape of publishing is changing anyway. I mean, you need to be up on the latest things that are happening. But the thing that is consistent about us is the fact that all of it, every single bit of it, is coming from our hearts. And we even will have conversations with the team saying, like, we're going to have to figure out how to, like, put some boundaries on some of this because every time we see what these authors are going through and we're hearing from them, it just creates more fire in us to find other ways to support them. And Rochelle, you're the one that came up with the phrase for it that I don't know that I've heard anything that's as close to what we do with Wildly Free because we really don't fall into any kind of currently existing publishing categories. There's not a way to like define us in that space. But author centered, publisher supported is a phenomenal way to say it because at the end of the day, like the things that we're trying to do, it all comes down to empowering authors. And so I think some of that is like you do the work that you need to do yourself. Like I think that's why me as an author is shifting, right? Is because I'm stepping into some of those spaces where I'm seeing others. That we want to make sure that when authors are leaving us, that they understand, or as they're continuing their journeys, that they understand that this power that they've been stepping into, like that is not a finite process. It's going to be a part of them for the remainder of their lives. And so when we serve the way that we serve and when we create the spaces that we create, I know that all of us are considering what that impact is going to be like way down the road. And so being in marketing, I feel like marketing is just an extension of storytelling. That's always on my heart when we're doing things like this. Like there's so much of me that I pour into it. I know there's so much that Amy pours into it when she's doing it. When it comes to editing, I mean, I know James and I both like the number of hours that we spend on things, but it's because for everybody on our team, there is no separation between this work that we are doing and this passion that we hold. And I don't know that you can find that anywhere else. And I just feel like I'm honored to be in the space all the time. And I hope that the people that work with us and that choose to say yes with us, like I know that it really matters to all of us that that's how they feel, is that they leave empowered and they feel like they've had an experience that honestly is unquantifiable. Like metrics and numbers, they're significant. We know that they matter in some ways. Um, but I just don't think that the things that we do are quantifiable. I don't
Mm-mm.
think the impact of it, I know a lot of people worry about the financial side of like I just don't think any of it's quantifiable because there's no way to measure what really happens when you have this kind of collective energy gathered in a space together. And that includes when we get all of our authors in here, because the people who are reaching out to us, things like that, like the people who are saying yes are also really aligned in the energy. That's why it works.
I love all of that from both of you. And I think that you've said almost everything, but one of the things that I just really appreciate is the word of mouth. I feel
Mm,
like anything I've ever done, word of mouth has always been like the best testimony,
hmm
is that there's conversations. And I know that throughout some of these other podcasts that we've been doing is every author has brought up, oh, I have a friend who's writing a book, and I tell them, I have the perfect person or the perfect team for you. And that word like perfect means alignment.
hmm
And that word like we're not perfect on any level in terms of anything, but and also hearing people have regret that they didn't work with us.
Mhm.
Which that just breaks my heart on so many levels. But in all reality, like just that creating that alignment space, that word of mouth, that confidence that people have, like, I have the perfect team for you, and you really need to just start the conversation. And they're starting to use like our language and our phrases, but with their own spin. It's like
hmm
they have ownership of who they got to become and who they got to become with.
Mm.
hmm
And I think that, I mean, this series of podcasts is probably one of my favorites I've ever done because they have just been so, it's kind of like that saying, a caterpillar can never, or a butterfly can never turn back into a caterpillar.
hmm
That's kind of what's been on my heart a lot of times, that they earn their wings with Wildly
hmm
Free. And they can't, I mean, it influenced so much of their life to step into spaces wildly free, to step in authentically, to be like, I can't hide anymore. I don't want to hide anymore. All of these things. And I think that really kind of leads us into this last part of the podcast in terms of we have one more book in this series. And it's bittersweet. I have so many mixed feelings about it, but it feels so right. And so, with that, I would love for us to kind of just chat real briefly about what does it mean to step into book three. So, little side story, before we even talked about releasing it, we actually had someone who's been attending the Monday writing hour, and we've got to know him through one of the authors of Rising Relentlessly, Dr. Aaron, and he was watching her journey and he wanted a piece of this. And so he started his own journey. He shared things that he's written poetry, all of that. And before we even released it, he said, I'm all in. Here's all the money. Just, I don't want to step into this space without just being totally like all in with writing. That shocked all of us. We were like, okay, because the impact And the stories are great, right? That's why we're doing it. But sometimes we don't realize that the impact that's happening is somebody else wanting to be all in to tell their story.
Mm.
So, creating an invitation for Cannabook 3, which is what we call it until it gets a name, though I'm pretty sure we already have the name, but we'll see what happens. What would the two of you like to say from all, like now all of us can talk about it from all parts, the authorship, the publisher, the editors, the marketing. What would you like to tell those that are listening to say yes to their cannabis story? It can be any kind of cannabis, right? Most of us
Yeah.
are CBD. The three of us are CBD cannabis. What would you say to them? James, you want to go first?
Yes. It's the same thing I write on my autograph page. Trust your story.
Mm.
Trust that you have a story to tell and that it's worth someone somewhere in the world reading it and being impacted by it. In Rising, we had an author from the Netherlands because of something that was written in Rooted to Rise. And the fact, actually, Elizabeth, that you shared that someone in the UK was drawn to my chapter because of the title.
Uh-huh.
And I tell the authors this as well. You don't know who's going to be impacted, where they're going to be, how they're going to be impacted. It might be someone you know, it may not be someone you know,
Mm-hmm.
but trust that your story is worth telling and that you have a story to tell in the first place.
I love that. I think that's really beautiful. I think that I would also tell people just when you come into these spaces, I think sometimes people have some like preconceived expectations of like what an experience should be like or, like what it should yield. And it's not that those things are bad, but what I really would say is that when you trust your story and when you're in a space like this, because of the way that we lead it and because of the way that we like coach you through it, right? Because one of my favorite parts about this is that there's nothing that you do alone, right? We know that in publishing spaces, like there are multiple opportunities. There is time and space out there where somebody could go publish their own book on Amazon tomorrow and not have anybody involved in it other than themselves. We also see countless titles that are then never touched, right? They're not, it doesn't mean the voice wasn't powerful or the story wasn't great, but it stays in this kind of nebulous space because there are thousands and thousands and thousands of books that are hitting shelves all the time, right? And so I think one of the things that when you're saying yes to the space, Rochelle, you mentioned it, you're saying yes to community, right? And a kind of community that I don't feel like people understand until they're living it. I mean, you can hear from all of our authors about it. They'll all tell you about it, but you got to say yes and come in and live in it. I think it has to do with saying yes to your story and not understanding, the breadth and depth of the impact that it will create. I also don't think you necessarily understand, like when I hope that people are stepping into this space, and this goes way back, Rochelle, to what you said, the answer to your very first question, personal transformation. Who you are when you are done with writing the book, and it's like out there because your author journey is never finished. But when you're done writing the book, who you are is completely different than who you are when you started. And and that kind of empowerment is is mind blowing, right? And I think that when I think about people trying to decide, do I want to be a part of Book 3 or not? I would tell you, first of all, again, last one in the series, like that's a big thing, right? Second of all, I would tell you that like if you've been on the fence, we have not had people yet who are like, I wish I hadn't done that. All the people we hear from are the ones that are like, I wish I had been a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had been able to be a part of this energy. And because we build community, our communities are also not like separate. We don't have like our Rooted to Rise community and our Rising Relentlessly community. And now this, right? I mean, this third book will have its own because we're coaching them through the process. But like we already have a community where all of these people are going to be together. Everybody, the people in Rooted to Rise benefited from Rising Relentlessly. And I am definitely not just talking about financially, right? They got to like ride this wave of energy again. And so I think when you say yes to Wildly Free and when you say yes to an anthology experience with us, There are so many levels that come with it, that I don't think you can compare it to anything else. And so I would say make sure that you're coming in with an open mind and without experiences predefined in your head, because it'll be unlike anything that you thought you would ever be a part of in the best way.
I love that. And as one of our authors said in one of her podcasts the other day, is just start the conversation.
Mm,
You don't have to have it figured out. You don't have to be a hard yes right away. Start the conversation, and any one of these 20 plus authors would be more than happy to have the conversation
hmm
with you if you want to have the conversation with them before you have it with me, because I'm the one that gets to have that conversation with you, which is one of my favorite things. And we have all of the information, just go to our website, wildlyfreepublishing.com, and you'll have all the information on our homepage. And I think sitting in that space is sometimes a sacred, like just you space. And then reaching out to one of the authors. We have all of their information. All of their information is all over all of our podcasts. Sit in that space, watch all the podcasts, connect with one of their social medias, connect with our social media. I mean, see what has already been done and see if you want to be a part of that. And as one of our other authors said, also do it messy. We are not perfectionists. We do not, one of the authors shared that she's so into everything and she just wrote a part of it. You don't have to be on the other side of anything. And I think that
hmm
that's one of the most valuable things, especially sitting in the space of, I think it's because of our books. A lot of things are happening in the cannabis world. And the cannabis world is not, these stories aren't just about cannabis.
hmm
That's the thing that unites everybody, is that, oh, here's my story, this was cannabis as a tool, what have you, but these stories are so much more than just cannabis. And I think that that's a misconception that a lot of people have. So with all of that, we would love to invite anybody to start the conversation. Go to the website, look at the offerings, there's videos, there's brilliantly written words to describe what it's like and to start the conversation. Be all in it, see what we've done the last 2 years, and please don't say no if you want to say yes. We do a whole bunch of things that position people to be able to say yes easier than other platforms. So, with that, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for being in this space with us. I know this is a longer podcast, but there's 3 people that really just wanted to share their hearts, and listen to it in chunks if you need to. But we're so grateful that you're here with us. And if you would like a copy of Rising Relentlessly, we have some signed copies from all 3 of us.
hmm
Rooted to Rise, we have some that are signed by various authors. Just reach out to us. Go to wildlyfreepublishing.com and you can buy the bundle right now for $24.99, which is a huge steal. But we want to get the books in your hands. So, with that, James Bryant and Ashley Elizabeth Packard, thank you so much for just always being in this beautiful space together. And until next time, thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.